case you're wondering, this used to be a fort for the kids, but they outgrew it a long time ago and they never come up here. So it's kind of a place I can sit down and chill and have a quiet moment to myself. But yeah, so I got insulted once years ago. Well, I guess more accurately would be one of the times I got insulted years ago really sort of stuck with me. But I'm going to say that this one insult actually probably contributed to me achieving what I've achieved and being where I am in life right now. So, random guy who very aggressively and forcefully insulted me. Thanks, dude. I hope you're doing okay, because I'm doing pretty good. So this incident happened, I believe it was 1984. It was the presidential election, Ronald Reagan versus Walter Mondale, Mondale Ferraro, that's right. And, you know, I was a punk rock kid, and so I was definitely against, you know, I was part of the whole rock against Reagan faction, you know, the whole trickle down economics I was not a fan of. You know, politics has changed quite a bit since then. I mean, Ronald Reagan would probably be a Democrat nowadays, or at least he couldn't get elected as a Republican. You can argue that all you want, but it's my channel, my opinion. But anyway, at the time I was not a Ronald Reagan fan. I was a punk rock kid and I was a black kid, and I had a lot of reasons why I was not a Ronald Reagan fan. So, like any responsible young punk rock kid, I was pretty politically active and went to rallies, and, you know, I voted and told my friends to vote, and went to an election night get together at the student union at the University of Texas. And even though it was a pretty heated situation, I think it was probably much more civil than a similar situation would be today, because there were actually Republicans and Democrats in the same student union watching the election results together. But it did get fairly heated. At the time, there was not a lot of mixing of the different factions of the student community. You know, this was 1984. So there were the punk rock kids over here, and anybody who was not part of the elite Greek community, for the majority, was over here. But we were in the same facility watching the election results together. But like I said, at one point it got pretty heated, and the Ronald Reagan voters were here and the non-Ronald Reagan voters were here, and they, you know, groups kind of got closer and closer together, and words were exchanged. There was a lot of yelling, no physical violence though, so it was not that type of situation. But I do remember at one point, you know, we were yelling at each other and you know, asking, well, why do you think that this person is the best person to run our country, and here's why I think they're not, or here's why I think this other candidate is better. And at one point I asked this kid, he was a kid, but he was my age, you know, so we considered ourselves adults, and it was getting a little heated, like I said, and I asked this guy, well, why are you voting for Ronald Reagan? And his answer to me was, because I got money, and it doesn't really matter what you think or who you vote for, you're going to be working for me one day anyway. And he said it in a very nasty tone, and it was meant to put me down. And it pissed me off, really did piss me off. I was pissed. But There were no punches thrown, and it did not, like I said, it did not escalate into violence. We all went our separate ways at the end of the night. Ronald Reagan was our president. My side was pretty sad. Their side was really happy, but that was pretty much the end of it. Now, I'm not going to say that the interactions between these two groups were always friendly. You know, most mornings I did have to wake up because I was a black kid who wore funny clothes and had a mohawk and dreadlocks or whatever I had at the time. And most mornings I would have to wake up before I went out in public and decide whether I was going to get in a fight or I was going to just ignore the screams, you know, dodge the eggs, rocks, whatever was thrown at me by, you know, these other kids my age who were out on the streets. But I digress. This situation stayed fairly, fairly calm. But that one comment really got me because in a lot of ways, what this kid said was destined to come true. You know, I'm sure he came from a place of privilege and, you know, probably had an easy time finding a job through connections or, you know, was able to afford to go to a nice business graduate school or law school or whatever, you know, and I didn't have that. You know, I was working to support myself, to pay my tuition to go to college. And it really did kind of upset me at the time, but it was a motivation as well. I was like, I'm going to prove that son of a bitch wrong. I'm going to be successful. And, you know, I did not get a college degree. I went to college for years. Some would say I wasted a lot of time and money, but it was a good experience. I did learn a lot. And, you know, they didn't have any degrees for fly fishing guide or guide service owner or social media content creator. I'm outside. Helicopter. We're gonna let that fly by. I may edit that out. I may leave it in. We'll see. But anyway, that was just one of the small things over the years that kind of stuck in my mind and made me think, you know what? I may not have been born wealthy. My parents worked hard. They didn't leave me money. They didn't leave me property. They didn't leave me a famous name and a bunch of connections. But what they did leave me with was the ability to work hard, the ability to believe in myself. And I believe that that was probably more important than any of those other things, because I know, you know, people have helped me over the years, and right now I'm trying to help other people because I really do think that that is important and that does make a difference in people's lives. But for the most part, you know, I had to figure a lot of this stuff out on my own. And that really does make me feel good. And just little insults like, doesn't matter what you think because you'll be working for me one day. That insult stuck with me for long enough to create some motivation to force me to not just end up working for that guy. So once again, whoever that guy was, if you're still out there, thanks, man. I really do hope you're doing well. And I am glad that you ain't my boss. And I'm doing good too. All right. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments. This is my Anything Goes channel, and this is how it's feeling today. Hopefully, I will see you in the next one.